Hi, everyone. Dr. Bill Dyment here. Happy New Year. I wanted to take a different tact in my first video to you all this year, and that is to share a little bit behind the curtain. Many of you know that I'm a psychologist, and for many years I did more traditional work, and I still do a little bit of clinical work. But I began to see that the compensation models within that field traditionally would never be able to provide for my family living in California that I needed to have. And I began to experiment more with my speaking career. And that was many years ago, and everything changed. And I wanted to share with you today at the start of the year three things that made the most difference in my career to get to me to where I am today. And I know that I'm speaking to some of you that know there's more in you, whether you work internally or whether you're an entrepreneur or you run a company, you're not at full capacity. And I want to give you three things that, if I look back in my career and with my coaching, made the most difference. And I also want you to stay tuned in the coming days that I am going to be launching a very short single session start of the year coaching experience for those of you who want to get a big view and a push to where you need to be headed this year, knowing where your strengths are, knowing where your focus needs to be, knowing what the top levers to turn. We're going to be taking a deep dive into that. And some of you may really be interested in that. But let me quickly tell you three things that made a big difference for me. I got interested in speaking. I had heard that people liked what I said in my meetings in school and in my business and working for a clinic. Began to investigate that, ran across Og Mandino, who was of the era of Zig Ziglar. He was 49 years old when he started speaking after he got sober. Great experience there. And then when I met him, he was in his 70s, and I reached out to him by letter way back when, and he said, join the National Speakers Association. Well, I've made plenty of mistakes in my business, but one I didn't make was to ignore that. Instead of just trying harder, as we say in our book, we say get more connected. And that's what I did. I spent 9 years driving my little car up to LA and was totally involved in an organization. And I love the National Speakers Association. And that was 4,300 talks ago. It changed everything. I would not be where I was today had I tried to just self-study it and save the money. Nothing would have changed for me at the rate and the focus and understanding by making that decision to join them. So who do you need to join this year instead of just trying to do it yourself? The second thing that's made a profound difference in my career has been very fierce about having weekly personal business meetings. I mentioned the book that my buddy Marcus Dayhoff and I wrote, Dr. Dayhoff and I, Fire Your Excuses. And that book, I'll just be blunt, was not a bestseller, but it boosted my income 25%. And each time I have written something, it has had a commensurate boost in income. Well worth it. But those decisions to write books and to put yourself out there, don't happen when you're too busy. You have to take the time to get away and have a summit with yourself or with someone else to figure out, what am I going to do this year that if I don't do, nobody will notice. But if I do on top of what I'm already doing, could change everything. Well, that book took 4 years for us to write, but it changed our lives. So that is a huge, huge tip for you, is you must be having some type of weekly personal business meeting. The third thing that I did, and I started about 20 years ago, was to invest in a coach. I remember reading a book, deciding to try to meet with this person who was on the East Coast. I flew back there. I talked to my dad at the time. He says, you don't need to do that. This guy's too expensive. Well, it was more expensive than I'd ever spent on a coach any other time. And you know what happened? I decided that I would not get off this guy's couch until he gave me an idea that would more than pay for what I spent getting there and paying for his 90 minutes. And he did. The thing he did, and I'll give it to you for free, is move away from single session work, which was my thinking as a psychologist, and provide packages for people, different packages to help them think about how they want to work with you. And that changed everything. And so Brian Tracy has said, invest 3% of your income for the rest of your life on personal development. I didn't think twice about that when I was getting my degree and paying for school. But it becomes harder to think about giving that money up. It's easy to think about spending several $1,000s a year on vacations than it is to invest that money in growth. But here's what I found. If you will take a break for 1 year and invest that money you would spend on vacation on your personal development, your business development, the next year you'll take a better vacation and that will never end. Everything changed when I started to invest in my own coach. Maybe this is your year. Maybe you have a book in you. Maybe you feel like you're stuck. Maybe there's more fire in the belly. At my age, I meet a lot of people that are just kind of winding it down, wanting to get to retirement, hit that golf ball. That is not me. It may not be you either. If that isn't, let's talk. But I want you to think about those three decisions. The first thing is to join some type of group that will enable you to go to further faster. The second will be commit to a weekly personal business meeting to see where you're headed and see if you're continuing to do things that will never really get you there. You're just lying to yourself. And the third, I want you to invest in some type of coaching. I'm the king of freebies, and there's a lot of great free information out there. But at some point, you do need to pay to play to be around the best people you can ever find. Somebody who's a little further or a lot further than you that can help you get there. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. Be on the lookout for my single session coaching package to jumpstart the new year for those of you who might be interested. Thank you for everyone that has hired me over the last year for speaking, mediation, consulting, coaching. So appreciate it. We'll see you in the new year.